laps. 10 more laps. 10 more laps. 10 more laps to go. My six. I worked a lot of hours getting her ready to go, fixing up the engine so she won't blow. I'll be a winner, I know. 10 more laps. 10 more laps. 10 more laps. 10 more laps to go. I was running way ahead of all the other cars. I was doing fine and everything was good so far. Track was getting hotter with the melting of the tar. 10 more laps to go. 10 more laps.
Hello there. Welcome to Paul's Place. Another 1 hour program, commercial free. The fastest 1 hour you'll ever spend in your life. We just get started here, and next thing I know, the guy's holding up 5 minutes fingers, and the program's over with. We're going to be talking basically today about midget races at the Coliseum. And we got the promoter, Tony Barhorst. We got one of the contestants, Mike Fedorcak, and then we got the Evel Knievel of racing with us today, Henry Rife. So we're going to have a pretty good program. We're going to talk about a lot of things. So if you're going to take notes, get a pencil and paper, and use a couple pencils, one with the eraser, because we might make some mistakes. So start off talking to Tony. You're the promoter out there. What's it look like right now?
Well, it's going to be the 14th annual Rumble in Fort Wayne, and it's a tradition. The first USAC race ever was held indoors at the Coliseum, and the last AAA race was held there too, just
Correct.
a year before that. And it stopped in 1989. Mike Fedorcak has won it indoors on the Coliseum floor, but ever since 1998, we've picked up the tradition again that Bill Lipke had, and ran with it, and have a 2-day midget racing show with go-karts, quarter midgets, mini sprints. We've had a lot of different divisions over the years, and this year it's going to be held in the newer Expo Center.
Correct.
As it has been since 1998. And we have a nice sized track there, good midget races, and we expect to have a pretty good time on December 30th and 31st out at the Memorial Coliseum Expo Center.
Yeah, it's weather's going to hold out this year, because I just heard on the news, it was last night or this morning, that El Nino is something that's coming in, and they predicted a rough winter for us, but now they say it's going to be mild and dry.
That's good news, because race fans have proven, even in a blizzard, to come in to see racing indoors. I've seen that at the Nutter Center, and indoor racing of this sort has quite a long history. So we were talking about the RCA Dome. I've had a couple races there. Mike Fedorcak has raced at the old RCA Dome. Hard to believe that building's gone.
That's history.
Yeah, but that was part of the Rumble series.
Yeah.
But now we're going to have the 14th annual here, and a lot of midget racing on tap. Just found out December 9th that Tony Stewart's going to be able to come back and race. So we expect him both days, racing the Munchkin that Mike Fedorcak built. Tony bought the car off of Mike, and Mike can tell that's a whole good story in itself. And we're going to have Henry the Pit Bull Rife. Last year, I don't know if you've probably seen our commercials if you weren't there in person, but Henry is an ATV stuntman, and he's been on the David Letterman show, and he's from Van Wert, Ohio City area, and kind of local hero, ATV stuntman, jumping at different festivals and things around the area. And I guess one time David Letterman's people heard about it, and Henry will be able to tell this about how he got invited on the David Letterman show. And so I saw his appearance there. I was really impressed. He was on for about at least 10 minutes and did a jump there of New York City taxi cabs outside of the Ed Sullivan Theater.
Were the cabs running?
They basically just stopped for a little while, just long enough for Henry to jump them.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder people had a hell of a time getting a cab that day. But anyways, Henry had them all tied up. But we attempted to do an indoor record last year, an indoor ATV jump record.
Yeah.
And it was like 8 cars is the record. Well, Henry practiced for a day, and then we decided to jump 10. Anyways, ended up the record was not set because Henry cleared the ramp and the cars by far, but went far down the ramp and off to the side a little bit. The ramp splintered. Henry cartwheeled, and basically it's a very tough jump to make because you have these different surfaces. You have a slick convention center floor, then you have our rubberized floor where the racetrack is, where the cars lay down rubber. Anyways, he has to figure on that where it's going to affect his landing. And then you got concrete walls there where you got to stop in front of. But Henry had a bad crash, but Henry wants to do it again because the record has not been set. It's not official. So we're going to try it again on December 31st.
What do you think about that, Henry? Jumping something like this, is this something you didn't get into a little later on in life, or did you start this early in life?
I'm now 43 years old,
and
been jumping since I was 5 years old. I was like every other American kid, see Evel Knievel on Wild World of Sports, and throw the wood plank on the center block down and get out there and jump and have my mom take me to the hospital every now and then.
I bet she enjoyed that.
No, she didn't enjoy it at all. Still doesn't.
Yeah. Well, at 43, you've probably been in the air about half your life.
Probably, if I was guessing, I'd probably say practice and everything, right around 30,000 jumps.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. You're out of the Van Wert area?
Van Wert, yeah. I've lived my whole life in Van Wert. I was born in Chicago.
Okay.
We moved to Van Wert when I was about 1. Been there ever since. I live in right outside of Ohio City right now, but it's a little suburb.
We had some racetracks over around there. Landex was over in there, wasn't it? I remember going to Landex.
I've only been back around through the Landex Tavern as far as, delivering tickets one time. I don't get out in that area too often, but you take a look at the history of auto racing, the American Speedways, I think I've seen that. There's been different racetracks come and go, but...
I ran a 57 Ford convertible on that racetrack and got it upside down. That's over in that area somewhere. But, the guy that started Eldora, New Bremen, and what's his name?
Frank Dickey?
No.
Earl Baldus.
Earl Baldus.
Dickey started New Bremen.
New Bremen, yeah. And he was from in that area. I know I drove for Maury DeGrice, some over in Ohio. He's from the Bryan area.
Bryan, yep.
And but other tracks besides the one you ran out at Bearfield? Done anything out at Bearfield?
Yeah, I did something at Bearfield, 1995.
Yeah.
I took a challenge. I wanted to set as many records as I could, and a record is basically, you can set a record for the most pink taxis, pink Cadillacs, whatever. But the big one is the biggest ramp-to-ramp jump.
Yeah.
That's the big boy. And I tried to jump a 70-foot-long house trailer with a 42-foot gap in front of it. Now that right there is not all that impressive, but to get over the front and the back, it'd make about 125, 130-foot jump. And that was back in 95, so.
How did that idea get started? Is that the house trailer that's out there as their office now? Or?
No, I think the one I used when I tried that stunt was it was out in the middle of the field, and I think a rocket car ended up melting it later on that day. I really don't remember.
I guess might as well burn it up since it didn't get jumped.
No, it got jumped.
Burn it to the ground.
Yeah, it got jumped. I just didn't land it. I broke both my legs, broke a collarbone, fractured a wrist, knocked me out for 45 minutes.
How did that idea come about, to jump that? Who put that together?
I was talking to the track promoter. I can't remember the guy's name now. But he asked me what I was willing to jump, and he told me they were going to have like a thrill show type event there, and he just kind of pointed to the house trailer. I said, well, why can't you jump that? I said, well, I can't. Oh, you can't do that? Not with a four-wheeler. I said, yeah, I can. And let my ego do the talking, and I ended up
it could have been Gumper, could have been promoter 95, or Mitchell, Bill Mitchell.
Bill Mitchell.
Bill Mitchell, yeah. Yeah, Bill's gone now. He passed away a couple years back. This helmet's the one you had on when you went over the trailer?
The camera picked that up. That's the lick I took on my head there. Yeah, I flew over the whole length of the jump, pretty much like a Superman. I showed up. They promised me that it wouldn't be over 8.5 feet tall, and they kind of set it on an incline. So when I showed up, the part where I set my ramp was actually 10 feet, and the ramp wasn't big enough, so I had to scoot it back a little bit, and I had to go faster. Went faster, and it just kicked me right off the four-wheeler, so I did a Superman over the whole thing, and I didn't land like Superman.
Did you do a practice on that deal, or was that just a one-time shot there?
That was a one-time shot. Yeah, I practiced earlier in the week. You do these stunts. Anybody can go out and jump, but if you're going to have any longevity to this, you got to know what you're doing. Or I've jumped around 30,000 times. Just takes one to kill you. And if you don't do it right, you don't do your homework, you're not ready, then you're gonna get hurt. You get paralyzed, you can die. I mean, this is not a joke.
That leads to me to my question. Do you carry around a team of engineers with computers and calculators to determine your trajectory and the speed you have to take off the ramp and the angle and all of the geometry involved, or is this just a seat of the pants type thing?
Well, it's neither. My engineer is right here.
That's what's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. I mean, I'm a true daredevil. There's guys out there that talk about that like it's a bad thing. I'm not a daredevil. I'm a stuntman. Well, I'm not a stuntman. I'm a daredevil. I go for it. I think I can do it based on the experience of the past. If it's within the realm of possibility, if I have over 60% chance of pulling it off, then I consider it. I practice it, without anybody watching. And if I'm right in the neighborhood, then we turn the lights on and go for it.
Well, like at the Expo Center, how will you determine how fast you've got to go without going too fast to hit your landing just exactly right on the ramp?
We'll get some practice sessions in earlier that week. Me and Tony did that last year, and I think he was kind of bored. I was making it look a little easy, and then the surface, changes. I showed up that day, for the track, and my nephew put his foot on the track and pulled his shoe off. That stick.
It sticks that bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I was worried about spinning and traction, so I got some of the midget tires, some Hoosiers. Yeah, that was like Velcro. As soon as, when I did that jump and come down the landing ramp and got a little sideways, as soon as I slid off that, if it had been a normal floor that wouldn't have had all that, I probably would have been able to save it.
Because it would have gave a little bit.
Yeah, I could have threw my body weight into it and probably saved it. And that's, as I was going over the whole thing, I could tell as soon as I left the takeoff ramp that I was in trouble. I knew it was going to leave a mark. And,
a mark where, on the floor or in your pants?
Probably both.
Or in one of those.
We have a tape of what transpired last year of the jump. Maybe might be able to roll that tape whenever he has a chance here, and we can discuss what happened. But Henry will be back into practice this year, and he's going to practice a couple days ahead, and have a lot of fun with it. And basically,
that's the big
our
thing.
antenna's going to be up. With auto racing, you always got to be on the lookout for what could happen next. And it doesn't matter if it's the go-karts. On our setup, you always got to be watching for any angle that could be a possibility, a safety angle, bad safety angle. Doesn't matter if it's indoors or outdoors. Just kind of got to be thinking ahead and what could happen and try to avoid all that stuff. But that's what Henry does. How did it start with the David Letterman appearance? How did that come about to a guy from Van Wert?
I don't do a lot of traveling, around the country. If the venue's big enough and they're really.
Hold up here. I think we're going to turn this tape on. And
okay.
No. Okay.
We'll roll that tape, or once we get it rolling, we'll start describing how it happened.
Roll the tape.
Can't roll the tape.
Okay. All right. How did it go with Letterman then? How did that start?
I did pretty much a charity event in Ohio City, and everything I do, any stunt I do, I make sure there's plenty of cameras there, and the internet. Put my stuff on YouTube. They seen me jump a big row of cars, and I set a couple cute little teenage girls on the landing ramp, jumped them too, freaked everybody out really good. And the Letterman people seen that, and I got a phone call, said Letterman wants to get a hold of you. They want you to come on their show, and I didn't believe them.
Yeah. One thing that intrigues me, I asked you the only way I want to find out. You're going to jump a 70-foot trailer. You know the trailer is 10 feet in the air. You know where you put your ramps and everything. Do you practice jumping that distance and everything without the trailer and everything there to get your projection and everything to take off the ramp and land on the ramp? Do you practice that way?
I have a practice area.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time, when I'm not doing shows,
Yeah.
I get out and practice, jump over and over and over. And, you get a feel for, I always joke about it, but it really is, people say it's like a Zen thing, you see in the karate movies and that.
Yeah.
It really is. You get a feel, you can feel every stone in the tire, that you hit and the speed, you get a little practice in with it, you're good. I was ready to go. I did it in practice for 8 feet. Then I showed up for 10 feet, and I had to pull the ramp back a little bit. It threw me off a little bit.
Yeah.
I was very worried about clipping the front end of the trailer, and if I would have hit the front end of the trailer, it would have sent me cartwheeling over it, and that would have been a bad deal.
That would have been no good.
Yeah.
Fans will be able to see these jumps if you go to YouTube,
Yeah.
put in Henry Rife. You can see his different jumps, the David Letterman show, the entire appearance. You can see the Ohio City show. And also go to rumbleseries.com and go to our media section. It'll have videos, and those videos will be on, the one from last year will be on it. So you'll be seeing more of that if you'd like to take a look at that on YouTube. Just remember Henry Rife.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to be part of the program out there, the 31st.
That'll be on the 31st. We're going to be racing both days. It'll be a big weekend of racing Friday and Saturday. And Mike has entered with his Munchkin. He's a teammate of Tony Stewart, who bought the car that he has won 6 times in at Fort Wayne. He bought that off of Mike, and that's a whole another story as far as how did Tony and you decide to be teammates? How did that work out with him buying the car? What happened on that when that happened?
I think it probably stemmed from him watching my car on ESPN when he was a teenager. Similar to what Henry was doing with Evel Knievel, Tony was watching me win at the speed room on ESPN, and I guess he said to himself that he wanted to run that car someday, and he got the opportunity in 1998, 97 at the Hoosier Dome. Him and Kenny Irwin flew in, and the driver that was in my car didn't qualify for the race, so Tony's car owner came to me. Tony's car actually was not running. The car he was scheduled to drive was not running, so his owner came to me, informed me that Tony was on his way in, and could Tony run my car? And I said, sure. I mean, it's not in a race, so we were just looking for an opportunity to get it in. Tony got in the car. He put another spring on the throttle. That's all the setup we did to it. He started in the back of the feature, had 1 lap to practice, and he ended up finishing 6th in the race. The crowd was on their feet watching him go through the pack, put on a spectacular performance. He got out of the car and said, man, I got to drive this car again someday. So it wasn't until years later that I got a call through a mutual friend, and he said that Tony was coming to Fort Wayne and would like to run the car again. So I said, well, sure. I couldn't believe it, but because that was right after he won a championship. But when 10 new Hoosier tires showed up, I knew he was serious. So he ran the car that day and won with it. And then it was a couple years later that I got a phone call about 11:30 at night, and it was him on the phone, and he wanted to buy the car to run the next day. The car had not run for 2 years. The last time it had been run, I ran at the Hoosier Dome at your show. So I said, I'll do what I can to get it ready. I can't guarantee it's going to run. Got up at 2 o'clock in the next morning, went to work on the car, got it ready to go. Tony showed up. We got about 2 laps of practice that day. Tony set quick time with it and went on to win the race that night.
I remember, kind of hearing about what it was taking to get the car. It was stored away and had to be basically dusted off and kind of shined up, and it was just a spur of the moment thing.
It was buried in the back of my shop for 2 years. I had actually robbed some parts off of it to try to get my own car running because I was having trouble with my car the whole time. at 7 o'clock in the morning, we're changing gears and, getting the thing ready to go. I ended up firing it up for the first time out in the Coliseum parking lot, and it was about 4 in the afternoon at that time, and your qualifications started at 4. So consequently, like I said, we just got 1 lap. I got about a half a lap of practice in my car. The tires had not been changed. They were 2 years old, and Tony ended up with quick time that day. I mean, it's just a phenomenal performance. He's just an amazing guy.
I was just glad it fired up and everything,
Yeah.
because you could have had a real problem. If it wouldn't have fired and would have been a big problem, it would have been tough.
It would have been tough. We would have got it eventually, but
A lot of work.
A lot
to
of
get
work.
that thing going. I remember Chuck Rencarell, he was along with you guys when he was and kind of waiting with his team.
Oh,
He was driving the Kalamazoo Twister.
the morning of that, the morning that we were getting ready, I was changing gears and there were other guys working on my car. My car had not been fired at that point. It was a cold, snowy day. We took it out to the road in front of my shop and we were trying to fire my car and ended up flat spotting tires and popping tires.
Wow.
One of my helpers, he stood on the back bumper, and that way the tires did get enough friction to actually spin the engine over. And when the car fired up, he just rolled over on the hood of the car. We were pushing it with my station wagon. Yeah, it was just a joke.
What kind of power plant's in that Munchkin?
The engine is based on a Volkswagen.
VW.
The Volkswagen is kind of a popular engine with midgets indoors. It's not too competitive outdoors anymore, but just due to the low center of gravity, it's really kind of maybe a little advantage. The rules are meant to equalize the Volkswagens with the other types of cars, though. So it's really all pretty even now.
I know you've experimented and built these things, or engineered them and everything else. Your engineering's right here, just like his is. Wankel engine. Now, they came on for a while, and they were noisy as all get out, and then they disappeared. Whatever happened to them? I know General Motors put a lot of money in developing something like that, but
As far as I know, there was someone on the East Coast that was developing it was a Mazda Wankel rotary engine. And I think the whole thing got quenched before it could really go anywhere.
yeah. We had some out the Coliseum, didn't we? I remember a couple nights out there they had one, and it would knock the dust out of the rafters when it was running around out there.
That's one of the things about these indoor races, that the cars we have, there's like 19 different engine and chassis combinations.
Yeah.
And that's something that's kind of a throwback, the old school, because you don't have near that kind of variety in today's racing. If it be the midget cars or any series, really doesn't have that many different divisions or different types of engines and chassis.
Well, when the midgets started in the 30s, I've got a book on them. I should have dug it out. They used the old Ford 4-cylinder engine. Miller, I think, had something like that. A 110 Offie then came in. Then the Ford 60s, and then we've got one up there in the museum. It's got a 6-cylinder Studebaker. That's that Continental 6 that Wally Poehler was so proud of. And then Chevrolet, didn't they take and cut a V8 in half?
There was that going on, and then there was the Chevy 2 engine for a while. That was pretty popular. Then a Sesco engine was kind of an adaptation of that.
Yeah.
And then the Volkswagen, and then the Pontiac. And then now it's Fontana, and Esslinger is kind of a current engine now. But of course, the cost has just escalated with each new development.
Well, that's the way racing has. I've got a picture here of. We'll bring this one on here. I think you're familiar with this picture.
I've got that picture in my shop.
This picture is. I think your dad was the head mechanic on these cars,
yes,
wasn't he?
Yep, he put together those cars for Rusty Hartman and Olin Fryer.
Olin Fryer.
Yeah.
They were Case Dairy, but at this time they weren't. This is before Case Dairy, I think.
That's correct, yep.
City Limit Shell, I think, was.
And at one time, Dagger Auto Parts was involved with it.
Yeah, I think that's what's on this. This was early racing in Fort Wayne. This was right after the war. I'm going to say 47, 48, somewhere in there.
Yeah, if not 48 or 49 even.
Yeah, he could even be 49. And
that's probably the reason I got involved in racing, right there, those 2 pictures.
yeah, I'm going to say you had to be just a little guy.
I was a little guy. I wasn't even born yet, actually. But
Yeah.
those pictures were around when I was growing up, and talk around the dinner table was sometimes about racing those cars. So
They went on to midgets was coming on then, and when in '51 they built South Anthony, and I started driving a race car in 47, 48, and I was 15 years old in high school. And anyway, midget was coming around there, and they'd run them on a quarter-mile track at the big track. And then when South Anthony was built, they built the grandstands right up on the racetrack, and South Anthony was really a good track for midgets and modifieds and everything else, and it really took off. And then Bill Lipke came on the program and took it inside to the midget show as a USAC, and now you're there.
Right.
Now it's in your hands. Lipke's gone, and
Right. We just continue the tradition. So,
Yeah.
Mike, you have a history in the midget cars, and then you even helped out at the Indianapolis 500 for different teams. How did you get started in the midgets, and what some of your career highlights in that in the midgets, and then tell us about your Indy 500 experience?
well, you're kind of putting me on the spot because I don't think we have enough time to talk about everything. So I'll just highlight. Of course, I said my dad kind of got me involved in the midgets. He said if you're ever going to race anything, go for a midget because they'll show your true talent. So that kind of sparked my key interest. The first midget race I saw was actually at the Coliseum. And the first car I saw on the track was a maroon and gold 57 car owned by the Knuckles family, which eventually I would end up owning.
Yeah.
I raced go-karts in college. That was the first time I ever raced was in college. I had a go-kart as a kid. My dad built one just to run around the yard. I've always wanted to race, but they didn't allow me to race, so
Been there.
I ended up probably wanted to jump. They didn't want you to jump.
No, they fought me tooth and nail.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to race ever since I can remember, but my mom would have no part of that, so I got a late start in college. Saved my money, bought Jeff Knuckles' car, kind of developed that as much as I could, then ended up designing my own car, building my own car. Lonnie Cole kind of got me started in a way. He took me to some races with him, and he was friends with Les Scott, who kind of was my mentor as far as driving. I won my first race in, I believe, '82 at South Bend Motor Speedway. Got involved with, through Lonnie Cole, I got involved with Grant King, who is a noted sprint car builder and also built a couple Indy cars. And this will lead into another story about Henry. Henry's involvement with Evel Knievel, because Evel Knievel sponsored one of Grant King's cars. Also Sheldon Kinzer drove for him, Gary Bettenhausen. From that, I took a break from Indy cars for a while I was working my own midget career. Ended up crashing a super modified in 1985, recovering from that. Decided to build another race car, and that's called the Munchkin. Kind of came as a result of me being laid up for a while. I didn't have anything to do, so I designed a new car. The Munchkin evolved into kind of another launch to my career. People in New Zealand watch TV. I ended up getting invited to race in New Zealand. Met Stan Fox. He opened some doors for me. Just taught me a lot about life and racing.
didn't they outlaw the Munchkin then? Somewhere along in your racing career, didn't they? Some of the tracks outlaw the Munchkin?
The race car has never been outlawed,
Yeah.
but there have been rules that have been written directly at that race car,
Yeah.
including now.
Yeah.
If you look at the rules for the Fort Wayne race, the Munchkin is spelled out in that, and I take that as a a compliment.
Compliment, yeah.
Yeah, but it's never been outlawed.
Yeah.
I've just always had to adapt and make it conform to the rules, which I'm doing right now in my shop. I mean, I'm just updating the car.
Yeah.
And it's been a challenge. Every time it's been a challenge, but I don't complain about it. I just rise to the occasion and try to build something faster and better.